Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at RCAT holdings. It is time for another update, and today we'll be discussing the perfect follow-through of the high probability trade setup I provided you here in the previous video on the smaller time frame, where we had a potential initial 5-wave move to the upside, and after a 3-wave correction into the area of support, we were looking with high probabilities for continuation in at least another 5-wave move to the upside. Now, surely enough, we got this and more, and we'll be discussing more about this and what we should expect further in a moment. But before that, I want to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we are going through a large leading diagonal forming to the upside, where we have a wave 1 complete, a wave 2 complete, and we are in a third wave right now. And this is what we are tracking in the white interpretation, basically, where we could have topped technically here within a wave A, and we could be in a larger correction in a wave B, but we would expect for this correction to be complete to get into the larger area of support between the $4.2 all the way down to the $1 level. Now, this is more of a high probability expectation than a complete requirement, meaning that it doesn't absolutely need to get there for this wave A to possibly be complete, but it is a high preference, let's say. But here within this structure, we actually even prefer an extension within the wave A at the moment, and this is what we are tracking here in the yellow interpretation. Now, this is one of the scenarios that could be built by the yellow movement to the upside, because this could form in the end just a larger ABC structure that would mark a very significant top and a very severe correction, possibly even taking us to new all-time lows, but this is not a focus at the moment. Right now, we are solely focused on this structure, which is expected to form at least another high. And here within this structure to the upside, we are also tracking a large leading diagonal to be forming, where this would be a wave 1 complete, wave 2 complete, third complete, fourth likely complete, and we would expect a fifth wave to still continue. And within this wave 5, we expect to form an ABC structure to consider this movement actually complete. And as per this structure, we have been following this idea of an wave A to have formed within a leading diagonal in a 5-wave structure to the upside, which allows us to track a decently high probability trade setup for this area of support between the $10.2 all the way down to the $6 level, into which we have pushed perfectly here into the last level of support. Yeah, we only got a brief week below the last level before starting this quite substantial reaction to the upside. And within this structure to the downside, we can tell quite easily that this could mark a WXY structure complete. I provided you this idea even in the previous video, but we were still looking even for possible resistance that could take us even lower. And since we were able to track a potential wave C to extend within this area, we had here a potential 1, 2, 3, 4th and a 5th to extend, and clearly this was a relevant interpretation. We have found resistance at the 38.2% retracement. Firstly, this is even the ideal target for the wave 4, but then we expected to continue higher as we had here a smaller time frame 5-wave move to the upside, at least within a larger ABC movement to complete the wave 4. Yeah, the wave 4 cannot be just a simple 5-wave move to the upside. It cannot be a simple impulse or a leading diagonal. And in such a case, we expected that after this structure was complete, we could have a more major top. And surely enough, we did push into the last level of resistance, and I'm discussing about all these for context, just to show you how relevant these levels have been, how relevant these interpretations can prove in overall tracking the larger structure. But surely enough, we didn't break down. We managed to break through the area of resistance. We only had a brief break initially, yeah, not very substantial, but it was already a strong signal that this structure was likely, very, very likely not going to extend lower. And after another correction, we had a more serious and complete breakout. Now, since this green interpretation is no longer valid, I am actually not tracking an extension within this wave to the downside any longer. I could be considering this to be an initial wave 1 down, and we have a wave 2 up, part of the larger white interpretation in which we assume that the wave A has actually topped here and that we would be in something like wave C to the downside, or who knows, maybe even a wave Y. But in either case, I would be looking here only for a more generic area of resistance, nothing specifically high probability that suggests we should expect further continuation lower. And in this case, we have here the area in orange between the $8.7 all the way up to the $13.3 level. That would suggest we should be prepared for headwinds before we make a more direct and complete and, let's say, confirmed breakthrough. Yeah, a break above the last level of resistance would be a strong signal that we should expect this overall wave C to the upside in yellow to unfold. Now, within this structure to the upside, there are actually a number of ways we could unfold even within this wave C. So ideally, we actually follow through in a variant of this initial 5-wave move to the upside we were tracking in the previous video. And even though we did manage to extend higher, this was still, or is still, part of the wave 1. This did not manage to complete the targets to actually get to the levels of an expected wave 3, and what I'm really tracking it as of right now is this idea of a potential either a 1-2-1-2 setup or something to be possibly even more likely an A, or not an A, an ABC within a wave 1. I would be tracking here a wave 2 correction, and then a third wave that would even right now still be ongoing. In this expectation, we are tracking a large leading diagonal to be forming, and while again, it is still technically possible for this to be an internal 1-2 setup, we retraced quite deeply within this correction, and I don't necessarily find this a high probability, which is why I am overall tracking a larger diagonal structure to the upside. Now, once this 5-wave move is complete, we would have a quite high probability trade setup. After the initial 5-wave move to the upside, we look for a 3-wave correction, which would likely get again into the area of support and continuation in another 5-wave move to the upside. Now, this would be expected to form an impulse in that case within the wave C, but at the moment we still need to wait, we still need to be patient, because this structure again could unfold in a number of different ways. This could be just something like an ABC, part of a larger initial wave 1, and then the entire wave C could be unfolding as an overall ending diagonal. And my main point is there are a number of interpretations, and we shouldn't get too caught up within one scenario, within one specific scenario. And then for the wave B in orange, we could also expect a number of ideas, but I would probably prefer to form something like a WXY structure, although even an ABC would not be outlandish. And at the moment, within both interpretations, yellow and orange, we are tracking a quite similar structure to the upside. Because within this area, I am tracking an ABC movement to form within the wave 3. We can even look here internally for an ideal target for such a wave 3. And that would be the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, which is here right around the $12.3 level. That is the ideal target for this entire movement to the upside, for this entire ABC movement. And within this structure, I am actually expecting, clearly still further continuation higher. We haven't even gotten to the ideal target, and I would expect to get there though. Now, within the wave C, I need to see a 5-wave move to the upside to consider this pattern complete, and I would actually expect here on the smaller time frame to see quite a few additional highs. So on such a small time frame, we may get distortions, the structure may not be as clear, and we may not follow through in a very perfect fashion. But as of right now, I am tracking this as a 1-2 setup, then this could be at least another 1-2 setup, where now we would expect a third wave to be towards the end of its lifespan. And once this third wave is complete, we can look for a wave 4 correction, and then a 5th wave, and then another 4-5 structure to complete the entire movement to the upside as an actual impulse. Now, again, this is not absolutely the only way this can be tracked, but this will remain my preferred interpretation, especially as long as we hold here the area of support that we can track for an internal 5-wave move to the upside within this structure, within this wave 3. And in this case, we are looking here at the levels between the $10.3 all the way down to the $9.7, where as long as we hold the 50% retracement, there is no reason to become bearish on this structure. And however, if we manage indeed to break below the last level of support, we need to be aware this structure could form different patterns. We need to be aware that it would also not be a very reliable structure to track here on the very small time frame, and instead it would be better to generally zoom out. But since we haven't managed to get yet to the ideal target within the larger wave 3, I cannot assume it is complete. If we see here a break below the 50% retracement, I would recommend to steer away and be more patient until the structure becomes more clear once again. But right now, again, the preference is still to continue higher. I don't really have even evidence that this wave 3 is complete. We may have still direct continuation. We may not even get into the area of support within such a sharp movement to the upside within such a small time frame. This is not too uncommon, and in the end, this is the level that I'm focusing on. But for now, we have managed on a larger time frame to break out of the area of support provided months ago, and we are looking with high probability for continuation higher, and a break above the 78.6% retracement would be a signal that this structure is likely to extend. Yeah, this is all just for a recap. And then if we manage to form the initial 5-way move to the upside, it would be a very good confirmation. This structure should be expected with even higher likelihood to build the larger wave C to the upside into quite high levels. Yeah, overall, from this area of support, from the actual low, let's say we use the 78.6% retracement, we are right now looking at 80% in profits. And this is why we are tracking these structures. This is why we are always looking for the reliable setups and we don't jump into every single trade. Yeah, I'm not looking at this as an actual trade setup. I'm looking for this or at this as a signal that we should expect continuation higher, and when it fails, as a signal that we should expect, rather a failure of this pattern, and we should be prepared for a more severe shift into the overall scenarios, because this could, for example, form something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could be just a wave C, it could be a larger ABC structure in a wave B, and we wouldn't need to form any additional highs. It could be even a WXY that I just mentioned. But still, to be honest, within all these interpretations, I actually still prefer to continue and form at least another high within this area, yeah? At least that. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.